What's going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Happy Friday. What am I talking about? Wow, where's my mind at? Sheets. I'm here with the winner. I'm the guy who had a great day yesterday. And by the way,
Yeah.
he showed, like as he put, he showed it all to everybody. It was all out there. This is what we are, true DFS. This is honestly, we're showing anything we can that we're allowed to. And Sheets did his screen right on our live build, and you know, that was an awesome thing. Sheets, why don't you talk a little bit about that, and then we'll jump into
Yeah, I'll pull that up here right now. Why not? And so you guys know I went out for dinner for anniversary last night. And as they say, and as I like to say, Lance Lynn gave me a very, very nice anniversary present, to say the least. So I did the same lineup in all four of these things. I had it in the oh my God, I got third in the qualifier. Oh, that
my
sucks.
God, that's brutal. Oh no, we just see, for me that might even ruin my morning. Just kidding.
Oh no, I barely even knew it. Oh, that's sick.
Man.
And then I got second in the monster, first in the single entry, and in the grand slam I got fourth. So let's pull that up, and let's just make sure I wasn't in contention to win this qualifier. I don't think I was, because if it's the same guy that had me in all these other ones, then whatever. So what I did, okay, and again, I was pretty confident from the beginning that Lynn was going to be my pitcher, but I was just a little nervous about the weather. And it turns out that I got sort of lucky. So here's the luck part of it. So I like the Cubs and I like the Red Sox. And we both agreed that they were both going to be kind of chalky. Mm-hmm. So what I decided to do, and we talked about this on air, was I decided to fade the chalkiest one, that being Devers, right, and just go elsewhere. And while you might say, well, he had a home run, and he did, and everybody was all over it, I guess it just kind of led me to this other stuff. And then I even mentioned to you online, I said, listen, I have a question for you, Bobby. Like, everybody's going to play these Red Sox, but how many of them are really going to play Marvin Gonzalez? And right, you said basically nobody.
Yep.
And to be precise, 2.7% of the people played Marvin Gonzalez. And that's probably the end of the story, right?
Right.
I
did, did the Rizzo thing that we talked about against the lefties.
That was totally you, by the way, because you said you could play Rizzo against the lefties, right?
Yeah.
And he fit in, and then also the Baez I was always going to have.
Yeah.
But the Chris Bryant instead of Devers, I mean, that's just good enough.
It's good leverage, right? I mean, yeah, the ownership difference is drastic between them, and I actually really like that play if you're going to go there. Now, again, I wasn't into the Cubs stack because I didn't love the run potential. But by the way, this is another great example of how you can win without your stack going off if you just get the power spots. Look, you got the home run from Bryant, the home run from Baez, the home run from Rizzo. Yep. And the Cubs only scored 4 runs, so
that's it.
Nailed it. You know what I mean? So that's what I mean. I've won giant tournaments where I've had the teams scored 3 runs, and I've had the stack because you get the right pieces and the max upside, and you did it.
And then I got like my nice little, I thought pretty safe one off with Blackman.
Yep.
Who did enough. And let me just this dude, the same guy. This guy got first in everything that I got second in with this lineup. And this is like such a killer thing too. There's no way I was beating this.
Wins, yeah.
Yeah, I just wasn't beating this, but yeah, that was really it was same guy did the same thing. He put it in every freaking lineup.
Yeah. Well, dude, beautiful. I mean, hey, great job. That's awesome.
Stoked.
Maybe we can even improve on it tonight.
Yeah, I'm in.
I would love to get in on the action. I've had a little bit of a struggle to start. I'm going to change a little bit about my process and remember that with my MLB that I'm actually much better when I do build out my builds and then go build my lineups and write a whole script even whether or not I use it.
What do you mean by that?
So I'm gonna make sure to assign everybody percentages, get every stack coordinated at what percentage I want of each. I just am not doing that enough, and on 6-game slates it's a little bit easier too, which like tonight. But in general, I just feel like that's one thing I've just missed on. I've had a lot of the right things with wrong pieces, which is sort of on purpose. I tried to do some different things, but I'm just sort of missing. And I feel like I'd like to go back to the drawing board and remember I'm very good. And I've done really well this year only when I've basically done the multi-entering thing so far. But small sample.
Well, forget that. You also, you're basically, I think, 1 for 1 this year with your results after the quote unquote get back to basics speech.
That's true.
We talked about that for basketball. You said, I'm doing something wrong, I'm going back to doing whatever. And then I think within 2 days you had like 2 5-figure cashes in a row or something like that.
I was actually 3 and 4, which was great. I not to correct you, just that was my last shining moment. So, but we'll get back to it. I'm gonna get back on track. Sheets is crushing it. We're going to talk about this slate. I actually like this little 3-game slate because I think there's going to be ways to get different.
6-game?
I'm sorry, the 6-game slate. The first game,
Make sure, by the way, that you get in. I remember yesterday you didn't get in
Yeah, I got in. I got
right?
in that one already. The early slate.
Okay.
The early slate, just to quickly touch on in case you're watching this in time.
Yeah.
Dodgers for me. Dodgers and I mean, that seems pretty obvious. I know you like the Giants. I do as well. The other team, I mean, if you can get the Yankees and Dodgers mixed, obviously, and then it's hard to go away from Buehler, Cueto for me.
I was close between Cueto and Kluber.
And then Kluber is also the one, and the super long shot play that will just occasionally throw that 35-point game which is going to be low owned, is Rich Hill. So if you were doing a lot of multi-entering, I would include Rich Hill in that. He's also been really good against righties for strikeouts in the past.
He's a former Dodger, right?
Yep, he's a former pretty much everything at this point.
Right.
But yeah, all right. So let's get into tonight's slate because I think that's where most people are watching for.
Yep.
Let's talk about the Angels and Toronto and a very high projected total, which is a little surprising because look, Heaney, I know he had a bad start his last time out. We know that he's actually got good stuff. This is not the ideal lineup for him to face, but I'm a little still surprised that they gave Toronto the 5+ run total. But I get it, and I think that both sides. I think playing some Heaney is immediately one thing I want to talk about, and also playing some of the Toronto bats when I'm not playing it.
Yeah. For me, I mean, I have one guy pitching, like I can just tell you right now, the guy who rates number 1 for me for pitching is not in this game, and I need to be talked off it a little bit because it's not the guy I would ever want to really play in that position. But then I have a bunch of guys that are kind of close as like an SP2, and Haney's just one of them. You know what I mean? Like I don't think he's like particularly special. I'm gonna go for like ownership somewhere. You know.
Right.
So I have to see how these guys turn out. He's one, and I'll touch on him as we get to him. He's one of like 6 guys. And on only a 6-game slate, I know that's not giving you too much differentiation, but that's just the way it is as far as what I'm looking at.
I agree, but I max. So there are other good options. I totally agree. I'm also playing some on FanDuel, but what I want to say about Heaney, and there's other guys who fit this category on this slate too. So he's not the only one. Charlie Morton would be another one.
Yep.
Guys with big upside and big downside. Well, Morton, I wouldn't say even has necessarily as big a downside. It's just a tough matchup. But I really like playing pitchers when everyone just jumps off of them, who still have the same upside against a team that still has a bunch of young guys that are free swingers that you could still get away with potentially using him. So I just want to throw that out there. I understand that it's not the optimal play, but I do think he merits some, and I'll play him on FanDuel as well. So for the lineup side of it, I'm more on the Angels than Toronto with the stadium. It's a big stadium upgrade. Obviously, Toronto, good hitters park. How about you, Sheets?
Yes, in my primitive stacks tool, which again I told you guys have been developing, and dude, I don't know what to tell you. So far, so good as far as results go. I don't know what to say. I don't know. I'm not saying that I'm right or I'm on anything, but I've been playing it based on this. So let's just see. My Angels. Again, this doesn't really have too much ownership yet. Angels are my top team. I don't think it's going to be particularly earth shattering. I don't come up with Toronto, so that's where I'm at. Is Toronto going to get ownership too?
I would imagine they will because these guys are, first of all, on FanDuel they're cheaper too, which makes them like Bo Bichette and guys like that. We also talked about how Heaney's combustible.
Yeah.
There's the up and the down with him. He can really go out there and pitch like 6 innings and get 11 Ks. He has that in him. But he also can get rocked by these guys, and they're, especially on FanDuel, affordable enough. And I mentioned FanDuel because I'm max entering over there, and I did a little more focusing.
Nice.
That's another thing I'm doing to try and pivot off of my normal thing. Instead of looking at everything DraftKings first, I tried to look at FanDuel first today, just to mix things up. So I think that Toronto, like on the Angels side, it's pretty obvious like who we want to play. We want to play Trout. We want to play Rendon. We want to play Ohtani. We want to play Walsh, Upton, Fletcher. All of those guys I expect to be pretty high on. And then on the other side, and basically I put it in like the order of, I think Rendon would be my favorite play, factoring in ownership and everything. And price. He's significantly cheaper on FanDuel, especially than Trout.
Well, we could totally pivot this way. We could totally base this on FanDuel. It's fine by me. I'm ready. I did both.
Yeah, we'll go back and we can go back and forth, whatever we're capable of. Sorry, I don't want to have you juggle too much. I'm just sort of.
But it's fine. We could use fan and
Love it.
draft game.
Love it. So I think that with the Toronto side is the prices over here. I mean, Simeon has always been good against lefties. We know that Guerrero, that's obviously better for him. Grichuk, same thing. Bo Bichette, same thing. You have all these guys who are pretty good against lefties. Teoscar. I don't even mind throwing in Biggio, who'll be the lower owned because he's the lefty part of it, although he won't be totally low owned. And then even Gurriel and even guys at the bottom, like one guy who I would include on FanDuel and will be popular more on DraftKings is you won't get catchers played. And I just believe in the upside of the future of this Alejandro Kirk. So I think getting a little bit of him on FanDuel in a 4-man stack would be a way you can get different if you did want to play the Toronto Blue Jays.
So with me on FanDuel, it's funny that you mentioned it because I have the same 3 teams in DraftKings as 3 of my top teams on FanDuel, but I do have Toronto as the 4th as a 4th on FanDuel. Right. Like you mentioned, I guess Toronto is just much more affordable over there. And when it comes to, by the way, just disclosure, when it comes to pitching, I don't get to what's his name, Haney on FanDuel like at all.
I understand it. I just just to touch quickly on the general DFS theory of pitching and everything.
Yeah,
you have Joe Musgrove, who is I really have always liked as a pitcher in a good matchup against Texas, who is about who's barely just even projections wise, Heaney is projected right with these guys. Like,
well, that's GPP theory. I mean, that's like
So and his upside versus what I think the ownership will be, especially, is I think tremendous. And I think he could be the highest scoring pitcher on the slate. Not to mention you're getting different against the field by playing him, especially on FanDuel where Toronto will be popular. So that's the argument for me for Heaney is to use the guys. Take the shots on the pitchers in these spots, and then you can play whatever lineup you like with it because you don't, other than obviously Toronto, because you don't really have to worry about it's not the way that other people are mostly going to be building, and they're just not going to be using it much, I don't think.
Yeah. Let me just double check that because I'm getting. I have like Haney just a little bit worse than Musgrove and Morton and McCullers on FanDuel, but not enough where it can overcome an ownership discount. Yeah. My top guys are not any of those guys. We're gonna get to that in a second.
Yeah, well, let's get to the next one. Oh, I did sort of rank through Toronto. I think Toronto is pretty obvious on FanDuel how you rank them. I mean, it's Bichette number 1, and then they're all pretty much the same guys who should be owned around, who I'm literally probably going to own around 20%. And Guerrero, Teoscar would be my favorite other 2.
You like Gurriel or Simeon?
I like Simeon as well. I think that what you do is like playing Simeon and Bichette together, if you're going to do the stack, is another way to get, not different, but like, because they're both shortstop eligible and Simeon is also second base eligible, it's just a different way to, look, it won't be totally undone. It's just going to be, you get guys who share position eligibility in general, you're going to have a better chance of getting a little bit lower owned version of the stack.
Okay.
So just some real basic baseball stuff. Let's talk about Detroit and Cleveland. What are your thoughts over here about the pitching? Because I'm guessing one of the guys you like is over here.
Yeah, this is my top guy. I mean, for now at least. I mean, is Plesac. And Cleveland is one of my top 3 stacks on both sides. So it's a Cleveland onslaught for me. Didn't get to much on didn't get to anything on Detroit. So for me, it's Plesac and then MVP. Ramirez, Hernandez, Rosario, Reyes, and then I get my next guy would be Jimenez, maybe. But yeah, the usual guys as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, so I want to. Here's my disclaimer about the what I think is going to be a fairly chalky Plesac on both sides.
Okay.
I love the matchup. I think he's a fine pitcher. Look, we just had this matchup in Detroit. Now this is not, you shouldn't base everything. I'm always a little bit less inclined to go with pitchers the second time in a row against the same team. Hitters in the major leagues are really good. They tend to figure things out. And I just want to, if he wasn't going to be chalky, I would still, I'm still going to use him some, but I probably will end up below the field. Even in that game where he pitched very well, he pitched 6 innings, he had 4 strikeouts. That's not fooling a lot of guys on a team that strikes out a lot. And now he's got him in Cleveland, which is a better hitter's park. Seems to be better hitting conditions. I'm going to double update my weather page. So this is just the argument for fading him. I'm not saying you need to fade him. I'm just saying this is my reasoning for looking at other guys. And he's also going to be popular.
I don't even have ownerships really yet. I mean, he's going to be
I just know he's going
popular.
to be popular. I mean, I don't need to look at the ownership to know.
That's why I'm asking you. I still do.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it like that. I just meant like
Yeah.
that, even just from a projection standpoint, but not to mention that everybody against Detroit's going to be popular. The run total, everything looks good. So,
Don't you think that Haney's going to get a lot of ownership at 7K?
I think people see the 5 run total and they're not going to play him on single
Okay.
sites. I think he'll get some looks on DraftKings.
Okay.
That's my first, but look, it could change. You know, people talk things up and things change throughout the day and lines change.
I didn't listen to the usual content yet today.
I haven't gone through it a lot of it either, but these are my takes, you know.
No, I know, but when I say that, I mean, I usually like to, when I listen, I can get a sense for where other people are going to be gravitating towards.
Yeah, I got you. And I actually, I think Nomar Mazara is a terrific one-off on FanDuel.
He got there a couple of days ago, right?
So Mazara is a guy who had really good power a couple years. I don't think, he had a home run the other day, last time he played against Cleveland. I don't even know if it was in the same match. I don't think it was against, what's his name? No, because he wasn't home run. But yeah, he had a home run the other day. I'm hoping to see some of the power back. He's 2.3K, going to be very low owned, I'd imagine. Should be batting in the middle of the order. So I really like him. And then I don't mind using Scope, who I just feel like is still better than a 2.3K guy and gets you a little bit different. So those are just two guys who I mentioned. But I'm not going crazy with Scope. I just think about 20% of Mazara is where I'm at right now. And then I love the Cleveland side as well. I right now am debating. I've seen this story before a lot with Cleveland. I want to pick on Detroit and I want to pick on their bullpen. I want to pick on their starters. I just want to say that Teheran can be good. This is a former All-Star, a guy who's, you know, really, really devastating against righties, really bad against lefties. So you want to try to get the lefties in the stacks when you're going to pick on him.
So maybe Reyes is not the best idea then.
So who's that?
Reyes is maybe not the best idea. Huh?
No, I'm including him a little bit. He's, again, another guy who's cheap enough on FanDuel, on DraftKings. He is also fair enough at 4.8 and 2K on 2.8 on FanDuel. I think he's fine. And he's also a good reverse splits guys, which can occasionally work for guys who are good who give up home run a lot to lefties. So it's kind of a funny little way of looking at it. But I think your top guys are easily Eddie Rosario, number 1, Jose Ramirez, number 2. Jose Ramirez is always number 1 if you want to play the stack, but even if you don't, I mean, he's just a little more expensive. That's why I say Rosario. But Rosario, Josh Naylor, and Ben Gamel would be my favorites, with Jake Bauers just behind. So I'm looking mostly at the lefties. And Cesar Hernandez in there is fair. So I like these. As I would rank them so far, I would have the Cleveland. I would probably have the Angels 1 and Cleveland a close second. They're very close for me. I like the individual bats like Rosario and Ramirez better than the bats on the Angels probably, but I like the stack better for the Angels.
Okay. Yeah, I on FanDuel have Cleveland and Angels 3 and 4.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
We'll see.
I just meant so far of who we.
Oh yeah, right. Cleveland. I'll have Toronto 1, Cleveland 2, Angels 3 right now. Yeah,
perfect. All right. How about so Philly and Atlanta? This is it's in Atlanta, so a little bit not quite the hitter's park that Philly is. So you got a lower run total. Both pitchers are beyond viable. I'm finding myself leaning towards this is going to sound freaking nuts. I think Atlanta is a really good sneaky stack every day. And to pick on the top pitcher doesn't feel right. The upside of these bats and the prices, the prices are going to keep them lower owned. I just think they're kind of interesting. I can't tell you everybody, so I don't want to just name every stack, but they're mildly interesting to me. And Philly on the other side can get to most pitchers, but I'm not going to pick on Charlie Morton. I actually feel like maybe I'm living in the past a little bit with Morton, but the guy he doesn't give up a ton of like home runs or any power things that I'm going to pick on. So I'm not really overall like trying to pick off one-offs in this matchup. I don't mind an Atlanta stack or a mini stack. And both pitchers are viable, but I'm probably going to skip Wheeler mostly and play Charlie Morton.
If you play if you take a shot with these Atlanta stacks, who's your favorite Braves?
It's always going to be Acuna because of the upside of the stolen bases, where he's just going to like run all the time. It's also probably going to get him the MVP. I love Albies price, so I would go Acuna, Albies, Freeman, probably in that, and then you can include the Ozuna or Swanson, who's cheap. I'm okay with any of those. Probably not going to reach to go to Darno, but I don't think it's terrible actually. Darno actually used to, you know what? Darno used to catch Wheeler too.
That's interesting.
With the Mets, and I always love those catchers versus their former. I mean, who knows them better than that? Even if they've changed, I always like that spot. So Darno would be in there too. But again, I'm not overwhelmingly wanting to. It's not like I think Wheeler's bad. I just think Atlanta's stack has so much upside all the time, especially Albies and Acuna because of the stolen base / power combination. Even and then the prices of these guys who actually have power at the bottom, even Austin Riley down at the bottom of the order. I really think they'd all be in play, but it would go, you'd want the main names first, Acuna, Freeman, and Albies.
In case I forget to mention it when we do the positions, I remember, I forgot where I wrote him down. I did like as a position play on DraftKings, Freddie Freeman. Because the way it's going to look on DraftKings, again, it's gonna, like an optimizer thing. People are gonna if they run optimizers, then people might end up with like a lot of Joey Votto. And same thing we kind of talked about before. Like there are guys that you want as one-offs and guys you kind of don't. And if I go down on my list from Votto, you get like 3 or 4 like power guys that I'd rather have, and one of them is Freeman. So I just figured I would just toss his name into the mix.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, you're never gonna have too many questions. And by the way, Freeman has stolen base upside. Everybody does. You know what I mean? And I just love the Atlanta stacks. They're one of my favorite offenses. I've been wanting to use them. This is obviously not the best case scenario. It is interesting in this game that you have Philly with a lower run total, and you have Zach Wheeler at like 3K more on FanDuel than Charlie Morton. And I actually think I prefer Morton. I think that obviously the upside is the Wheeler play. But again, I mean, he just faced this team and he dominated them. And I think people are going to look at that. And I think hitters make adjustments. I'm okay with, that's another reason why I like Atlanta here. But again, they'd be my third favorite stack, but maybe to get different, I would rate them a little bit higher. Third favorite stack at the moment of the guys we've mentioned.
You know what? I shouldn't be greedy, okay? Because look, FanDuel only makes $700 billion in rake a night. I guess I shouldn't ask for too much, because I want to save it for like when they like miss-score guys and like they don't pay out in time or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But they could get these baseball caps right. You know what I mean? Like these guys haven't been with these teams for a while. I mean, like Charlie Morton, they could change his hat. They could change Zach Wheeler's hat. And, for some people, it's a little tilting. Like they think they're on the other team, Yeah,
so, I kept doing that with Jock. I was stacking the Cubs and Dodgers the other day, and Jock, he kept popping up. And I was like, oh, I got my 4 Dodgers there. I got him counting.
And I want to say that Zach Wheeler wasn't on the Mets even last year. I'm not even sure, but.
Yeah, he's been gone long enough.
I mean, come on. All right, you want to move ahead?
Yeah, let's move over to San Diego, Texas. This guy is I think a phenomenal play on FanDuel for his price. Musgrove, not going to play any of Texas's, or whatever his name is. That's where I'm at, and my plan is to probably fade most of the Padres hitters, even though they're definitely a good stack. I just think that it's going to be chalky. It's in Texas. It's going to be a bullpen-ish game. I'm going elsewhere with my stacks today.
Yeah. As they say in the southern part of Texas, I think one of us is going to win.
This is going to be this to me. I think is going to end up being the chalky stack. Now, if I'm wrong, I will switch. If it's wrong and nobody's playing these guys for any reason, I will jump completely over.
But what I can do is something similar to yesterday. I could just find out who the chalkiest guy is and throw him out. I mean, like,
Sure. And if I love the stack so much in Texas, I would probably do that. But I just don't feel so strongly. I do like some of the individual bats, but go ahead.
Yeah. And the other thing I want to say about this somebody's going to win thing, and I think about this from golf. Okay, when I pick guys who are 6,800 and guys are 6,800, they look good at 6,800, and then like they have a couple of good performances, and all of a sudden they're like 9K or something like that. I'm like, dude, what the hell? He's good at 6,800, but he's not as good as like actually like really good players. Do I not remember like for the last 2 years us like saying, okay, Musgrove's fine at 6,600 if we have to,
You're 100%
or he's fine at 6,800 if we have to. Is he really just like all of a sudden worth this? I don't understand.
I actually think I was the one saying we need to play Musgrove in all those spots because his upside was always there. He's got the stuff. He's been injured. He had some pitch limitations when he was in Houston before because they were basically had 8 starters on their roster and really good middle relief. So you had a very short leash, not even messing up, just like 75 pitches was like part of the problem. Then in Pittsburgh, similar thing. I don't know. I think that he is a better pitcher than he was. I think he'll be lower owned a little bit on, I'm sorry, the price I said on FanDuel, but I meant because he's high priced on FanDuel that I think he might be a little lower owned. So he's one of my favorite pitchers. And in Texas, I'm going to want to pick on Texas a lot this year, but I do think Musgrove has the stuff to be a really, really good pitcher. And he looked great his first outing.
I mean, I say this with full disclaimers that even on DraftKings, Musgrove does rate for me to be the top pitcher. And then like a big wall of 5 guys underneath that for second. Mm-hmm. But I just don't believe it. You know, and the funny thing is when he pitched on, was it opening day or whatever it was?
Second day.
I didn't believe that either. And he just mowed everybody down. Again, it's just possible that he's just all of a sudden better. But I don't know. I would like to say, by the way, before I forget, we did do the Philly game on FanDuel, but on DraftKings, I do like Wheeler. He's just so expensive on FanDuel. I'm just not getting to him. But on DraftKings, at 8,800, he's one of those 5 guys.
Absolutely makes tons. I mean, like, he just put up 1 million points against the same team. I understand it, but I totally get it. I'm just going to be below the field everywhere.
I don't like anybody from Texas as far as bats go. And if I had to say who my guys were on FanDuel for the Chargers, for San Diego, I would say Pham, Machado, Profar, and it depends how much I want to spend. I can either go Myers, Hosmer, or the Ha-Seong Kim. I have to see who gets in and all that
Grisham,
stuff.
You want Grisham.
Grisham I want?
Grisham is the number one. I think Grisham is he'd probably super chalky, but probably one of the.
Well, that's good. So I don't want him then. That's fine.
Probably a cash staple today. Well, no,
he's coming off the injury. He's coming off the injured list. Is that the story?
He's way too cheap. He's leading off. He should be leading off, and I think he's a really good play on both sides, personally.
Well, let's check out the ownership.
You got some ownership?
Maybe we'll toss him.
I haven't gotten any.
I didn't either. I have nothing for FanDuel ownership. That's what I'm saying. So I have to see where we're at. But if he becomes like the chalk play and the top play or whatever, I got no problem throwing him out, even if he's the best play. You know, that's totally no problem with that.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. All right. You ready to move over to Houston and Oakland?
Yeah. Who's pitching this? Oh, right. Okay.
This is the other problem.
Yeah. So McCullers is tied with Musgrove and Morton for my second best FanDuel pitcher. And he's one of those candidates for second pitcher on, or maybe first pitcher on DraftKings as well. You know, he's very good. We would debate him last year. We argue about it. I don't know, but McCullers,
another injury situation last year.
A couple of times he went off as chalk and he really smashed too. I forgot exactly what ended up happening in the playoffs, but he's pretty good matchup, obviously, and he's certainly in play.
Yeah, so here's the counter to the Musgrove thing. I'm sorry, to the
McCullers.
To McCullers thing. I like McCullers too here. I think Oakland's lineup has looked pretty bad, but I do believe in the power upside of the Oakland lineup, and I think there is some strength there. I think McCullers just pitched against, again, this is what you're going to see today. Everybody's just pitched.
Everybody, yep.
So McCullers just pitched against this team, and the thing that's not interesting is, like, he pitched well, okay? He just barely made it through the 5 innings. And in that, I've heard even a number of people mention today that I believe he threw 95. I'm just double checking that right now. 95 pitches in his first start.
Okay.
But there's a downside to that too, because if you're trying to let the guy just get in there long enough so you can get the win, then you might see him even have a little bit more of a leash then and less of a leash now. But he still only pitched 5 innings, and even with that 7 Ks, he was in trouble a lot in that game because he was walking people again. And just as a counter to chalk, I'm just going to point it out. Now I will have some McCullers, but probably below the field. Yeah.
You think he's going to be one of the? Yeah, I mean, he's got to be one of them. But do you think he's like heavy chalk?
No, he's just one of them.
Okay.
My guess is somewhere between 30 and 45% on draft. It's early in the day, so on DraftKings, I would guess 30 to 45%, somewhere in that range.
Like, how on earth is anybody going to? Oh my God, look at these prices. So Plesac is 9,600 on DraftKings.
Yeah, he's only 85 on FanDuel, 86 on.
I know. He's as opposed to like he's 1,100 more than Wheeler, or 800 more than Wheeler on DraftKings, but like 3,000 less or something like that.
Right.
Wow, this is interesting.
It is.
So yeah, yeah. So the McCullers one is he's on my list. If he ends up being too chalky, I have no problem pivoting off of him. And what I will say, by the way, is remember I mentioned the whole thing about with the first baseman, where Votto might end up getting owned because just this point per dollar thing is going to show up good. And I said there were some first basemen you could take one-off shots with instead of him. Olsen is another one that I would throw into that mix.
Yeah, it's I'm just going through the history. He's got about 100 of the current lineup, probably maybe only 6 of those. Maybe like let's call it 95 at bats against him. But they've actually hit him pretty good, and not like hard, not like home runs or anything like that. For some reason, Elvis Andrus has great BVP here, but it's just a spot where they've walked 15% against him. The strikeouts are reasonable for him, but I just am thinking about the Oakland bats. I agree. I mean, Olsen has really struggled with him individually, but I'm not installing 12 at bats, so it's not large enough for me to care. I actually think Moreland would be kind of interesting.
Yep.
That those are pretty much it for me for the Oakland bats.
What about the Houston bats?
So I'm going to do this. I have to look up because Manea's had a lot of experience with these guys. I mean, these guys are division rivals, so they have more. I'm giving more to I want to take a look at what they've done in their history.
I mean, they're priced pretty healthy. They're like the top guys on Houston, right? I mean, I don't know. Bregman 5K seems fair. Altuve 4,900 seems kind of fair. Tucker seems sort of cheap, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, let me just take a look real quick. You talk for a second, Sheets. I'm going to try and pull this up.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't show up as like a top stack or anything like that, but just these guys are good. And I would probably take. I don't know how low they're going to be. Again, this is early, so I don't really have ownership projections, but I would take shots with the guy, like I said, the guys you've heard of on Houston, right? Bregman, Altuve. I don't know if anybody's heard of Kyle Tucker, but Kyle Tucker. I think all those guys look fine.
Yeah, I think Bregman would stand out to me to be the strongest play. I may end up stacking Houston. I don't have them right now, but I think that Altuve's had 32 at bats and is 6 for 32, which is pretty un-Altuve like. So it's kind of it's something at least worth looking at. Or Correa's 5 for 26 with a combined 1 home run between their 58 at bats between the two of them. So based on their BVP history, I mean, you're going to go on Bregman, because it's actually a pretty decent size. But look, it's still too small. But it's still 140 guys against him over the years. And Manaea's actually been okay. I'm not interested in Manaea, but I do think that I might not be that interested in Houston as well. If I had to pick their hitters, I would pick Bregman. That would be pretty much the end of it for me. If I'm not stacking them, I mean, I may end up changing my mind on the stacking.
Okay.
All right.
You want to finish up with the Cincinnati, Arizona?
Yeah. Cincinnati, Arizona. All right. So what do you think about pitching in this game?
Yeah, I got Mahle as one of those guys, actually.
Yeah. Okay. I like him too.
I don't know if he can strike anybody out, but can he?
I mean, he can sometimes.
Yeah.
He had 9 strikeouts in his last outing. He's streaky. And
yeah, he's in there. That's what I'm saying. Like he's in that mix for me.
Why is he projecting so poorly though? I don't quite understand it. But
I don't know about that. I mean, again, I think all these guys.
You're right. He's fine. I see what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I mean, he's fine. And if people want to ignore this later game or something, maybe he's the lowest owned of all these guys.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. And we haven't really seen a whole lot to be scared of so far from the Arizona offense.
They've had the nut matchup in Colorado and haven't really done much with it. I mean,
yeah, and I guess we have the stadium closed tonight, which obviously we always like it when it's open. But you had a nice run total here, and this is an interesting spot to maybe take some shots on both sides of this game from a hitting perspective.
yeah, one of my top guys overall is Suarez. I wrote that down for both sites, so I figured I would just throw that out there. Then, as I mentioned, Votto looks like a decent play. Then there's Senzel. The thing is, we haven't really seen too much of Cincinnati because they get that kind of like
Yeah,
that game. You know what I mean? Like that nobody ever get a chance to see. They're never a part of any slate, pretty much.
right.
So I like who did I just say? I like Senzel. I like Suarez. Maybe you're right. Maybe this could be a sneaky game, huh?
Yeah, it's not the most ideal hitting. Like the thing with Cincinnati, they're priced, and I think they get priced partially for their ballpark because they have a great hitters park, and they're not priced like that. On the other side, though, this might be the interesting other way to go. I don't think people are going. Molly definitely has a downside to him, and I don't think people are going to play this. What's been a pretty lousy stack, but like especially on. I mean, I think on both sides they're really cheap. They're crazy.
People are really going to play like Peralta 3,900 when he was 4K in Coors, right?
I mean, I mean, he was 2,600. I mean, like,
Right.
I don't know. I'm into it.
Yeah, no, I'm saying from an ownership perspective, I mean, you're going to get all the leverage in the world. I mean,
it's definitely an interesting way to go. I think that it's definitely going to be on my list of stacks. It's baseball, and I don't think like we should try. I like Molly a little bit. Don't get me wrong, but I do think that we shouldn't treat him like he's like a god or something.
Well, the fact is that again, when we hopefully you guys read between the lines a little bit here, is that our takes on things are partially going to be based on what type of approach we're going to take to the slate. Like Bobby already said, he's going to put a shitload of lineups in, and if you're going to do that, you're going to be a hell of a lot more inclined to play Arizona, Cincinnati than if, like, let's say you're going to put only 3 lineups in, like for example. Right. So I mean, again, like that's part of this, and Bobby already said he's going to play a bunch of lineups. I already said that I've been running hot with the way I've been doing it, so I'm going to continue to do it that way, just a couple of them. So I'm probably not going to get to like an Arizona, Cincinnati set, but if I were playing like 30 lineups or maybe even 20, I'd be. It's baseball, dude. I mean, you got to be forced to. You got to get some of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, with no Marte, the lineup's even worse. But they still have the run total, and it's just these prices are crazy, really crazy. So I actually this is a very viable stack. I think playing Arizona and Atlanta are the 2 sneaky stacks I like the most after going through it, and the Angels, Cleveland. And I think that it would probably be Toronto on FanDuel after that would be my next ones. Would be my favorites.
Yeah, my favorites again are going to be on FanDuel. Well, in order, FanDuel would be San Diego, then Toronto, then Cleveland, then the Angels. On DraftKings would be Angels, San Diego, and Cleveland. Just to recap pitching, then we can do position by position if you want.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, to recap pitching for me on for now on DraftKings. For now, I have Musgrove and then a whole bunch of them: Wheeler, McCullers, Male, Plesac, and Morton. And then on FanDuel would be Plesac would be my best.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, you want to quickly talk about positions?
Yeah, sure. You want where do you want to start? Catcher?
Yeah, catcher.
Yeah, this catcher stunk for me. Why don't you just catcher? Because the only catcher was Barnhart.
I think Kirk is.
That's the guy, Kirk, right?
Is the guy I want on both sides a little bit. I mean, JT it's too much to pay on FanDuel, and probably not going to do it on DraftKings because it's a good pitcher.
You mean JT Real Muta, right?
Yeah, I think you're using your catchers in stacks probably. Carson Kelly, if you're going to do what I suggested with the Arizona side of things. Caratini for San Diego, assuming that he's the catcher today. We don't really know. Like it is a weird the way this schedule's been run, so we have some questionable catchers still. But Travis Darno, again, just a guy. He's too expensive on DraftKings though. But again, I do like him against his former pitcher. I don't really have anybody that I'm totally in love with at this point. I think you're playing the spend down game. Maybe yeah, I just don't. I don't have anybody that I'm married to. I think Kirk is the best play, and that's pretty much it.
So first base I can do. 'Cause
I'm taking one more quick look and to see if I'm missing something that maybe. Oh wait, Wilson Ramos is 2.4
what team is he on now?
to the Detroit. It's against Plesac, but he's 2.4. That's pretty reasonable. He'll be lower owned than Kirk. So he would be another one you could pay down for. And maybe if somebody gets a better lineup spot tonight that we don't know about yet, but right now it's
Wow, it's really funny. That's exactly the second guy I had rated was Wilson Ramos. So it was Barnhart, then Ramos. So yeah, I like Ramos.
And then Barnhart, Ramos, and Kirk. Kirk would be.
And as part of your stacks, I mean, Stassi, obviously.
Kirk, I would even use as a one-off with the way the catcher is in this slate.
Okay.
First base, go ahead, Sheets.
Yeah, so as I alluded to before, I mean, Votto's going to be an okay play, but I don't play him by himself, and I don't really want to put a Red Sox, you could play Red Stacks, but I'm going to go for more power. I'm going to go for Guerrero, Freeman, and Olsen, and the other guy you mentioned earlier, which I like, is for the same game is Moreland.
Yeah, so first base eligible players, the guy who I have the most ownership of, but he plays outfield also, so you don't need to use him at first, is Josh Naylor.
Oh, that's he's only 2,500, right?
I really like him over, on FanDuel, but I like him. I mean, on DraftKings, he's crazy cheap, so I would definitely be trying to use him over there. And look, there is some pinch hit risk with these guys, but I still think that just the splits against the lefty versus the power upside with Naylor, who I actually think is a really good hitter and might actually not be coming out of games as much this year. But I
don't think he's eligible though.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was speaking of on FanDuel. He is on DraftKings. He's just outfield eligible at 2.5. Okay. Sorry about that. Freddie Freeman, even against Wheeler, I think is a solid play. Guerrero. I'm looking at position. The problem is I'm looking at FanDuel and I should be looking at DraftKings. Again, I'm not like in love. Joey Votto getting ownership shows you that this position is a little weaker than usual.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say.
I guess maybe what we do is we could spend down for Moreland if we want to. I like that a little bit. And I like Ohtani. You can use him in first base or outfield. And Vlad, I mentioned already.
At second base, because you were focusing on FanDuel, I actually did write down some FanDuel stuff too. So second base, my favorite on FanDuel was going to be Hernandez, actually, from the Cleveland. Mm-hmm. But on DraftKings, I threw a couple of more in Simeon, Altuve, Cronenworth. Those are the others.
Yeah, David Fletcher I would include as well. Again, trying to double check the positions because I'm looking at my FanDuel ownerships. Yeah, Fletcher is a little bit more expensive, obviously, on DraftKings, but he's one of the guys I'm considering. I love Ozzie Albies. I don't mind Biggio and Toronto stacks.
That's another guy, by the way. If you guys want to keep track of this stuff, another guy who Bobby gets right like more frequently than usual is Ozzie Albies. And he almost always, remember all those times last year you were like rooting for him to be in the 8-hole, and he was in the 8-hole when he smashed like 4,700, which nobody in their right mind would play, and he was like 1% owned, and he just killed it like every freaking time.
Yeah. No, he was great. I mean, it was so bizarre how often that was hitting for some reason. But Josh Van Meter stands out as being a really good play and probably pretty popular at 2.7. He Hernandez, Simeon. I think those are your main ones, and then Escobar would be in my Arizona side. With again, not aside from Albies, obviously. Well,
this is interesting. So I'm a little different with third base depending on the site. So third base, I had Rendon and Ramirez would be my tops on DraftKings, but on FanDuel, my top was actually Machado. I'm not. I don't have them to compare one or the other, but that's just where I had it.
I get it. I have less of the Machado than I think that others do, but I do like him, and his price is very reasonable. I prefer Rendon to Machado, and I think that at the same price you're going to get lower ownership as well. So Jose Ramirez is still my favorite on both sites, but those would be the other guys, and we've already found some guys to spend down for, so I can pay up for Ramirez pretty comfortably here, who's legitimately probably my favorite one-off guy to ever play, and not to mention or a mini stack or whatever. I want some Cleveland exposure anyway. Ramirez is just he's like my favorite fantasy guy for daily because he can go through struggles and then he goes out and hits a home run, hits a double, steals 3 bases. Like he goes wild sometimes. And then Escobar, again, as a cheap option in the Arizona stacks if you're going to use it.
Shortstop for me, my top 2 on both sides are the same, and that's Suarez and Bichette.
Suarez, Bichette. Yeah, I like both of the. Wait, Suarez is shortstop eligible. Wow, I didn't even realize that. Okay, well, I'm gonna bump up my ownership a little bit because I actually think shortstop is going to be pretty heavy chalk, especially on FanDuel with Bichette, some Bichette Simeon combinations, and I like both those guys, but I just think that's where most of the ownership's going to go. One guy who's cheap, you can get a little different, Dansby Swanson at 2,500. I'm not going to say Elvis Anderson unless he's batting higher in the order, but the one who stands out as being a little bit cheap on FanDuel is Didi at 2.7 and Correa at 3K. I don't love either of those guys, but those are pretty cheap price tags for their upside. And don't love shortstop as much as usual. Most of the good ones aren't on this slate.
At third, that was third base, right? So at we did shortstop. Outfield on which one is this? So FanDuel, I like Pham, Trout, Gurriel, and Rosario, and then on DraftKings, Pham as well.
My highest owned in order are Rosario, Naylor, Gamble. I guess I really am onto this Cleveland side.
Yeah.
Gurriel, Grisham, Mazzara, Teoscar, Peralta, Ohtani, Acuna, Trout, and Upton. Literally, I have all those guys in the same range. It's early in the day, so that's where I'm at with those guys right now.
Yeah, so a nice little manageable
six
gamer. But baseball, you can manage millions, man. Baseball's is very, maybe it's because I've been so beaten down by having to analyze NBA games that you can give me 30 MLB games. I could blast through that. That seems pretty easy.
Yeah, absolutely. The frustrating part about the NBA these days is we'll get into that. Actually, we'll just wait for the NBA show, which is coming up in a minute. All right, I think we're good for now, guys. Good luck to everyone out there. We'll see you at the top of the leaderboards, and we'll see you in Discord later.